We're now joined by Max Olson from ESPN. Max, an interesting day today when it comes to the portal. We'll get to the Notre Dame offensive lineman, but Baylor also coming up with a young man who was recruited by Tech and then, of course, Ohio State, and Calvin Simpson-Hunt. Didn't play a lot, but appears to be a nice little pickup for the new cornerbacks coach in Paul Gonzalez.
Yeah, that's right. Appreciate you letting me on. Yeah, I think those are the kind of pickups that, I probably get a little bit underrated because they happen after the window. And I'm sure that, if Calvin Simpson-Hunt had put his name in the portal on December 9th, I think he would have probably had a lot of good opportunities because he's still just a redshirt freshman with 3 more years of eligibility. He's a former top 150 recruit or 100, depending on the site you're looking at. And he goes in late because of the championship run by Ohio State. And so, I think at Baylor and really, across the Big 12, I think those are the kind of players you want to bet on and try to win on in the portal. Is the kind of player you can bring home who's got a bunch of years of eligibility and has a chance to develop into a starter and a really good player. So, yeah, I like that move for Baylor. And, I think even though the portal window's been closed, I think you're still going to see names pop up here as we get the last of the Ohio State and Notre Dame players going in, and then grad transfers can keep popping up between now and the end of April.
Max, what is the portal situation now? Like, what do you watch for now that, it's like, oh, well, Notre Dame and Ohio State have guys that can go? Like, what do you keep your eye on at this point?
Did you know that most calorie deficit calculators don't work? My dietitian recommended the Lasta to me, and it turned out to be the only one that got my calorie deficit right. Thanks to it, I lost 14 pounds in 1 week. Ready to kickstart your journey to healthy weight loss? Calculate your ideal calorie deficit using the Lasta app right now.
I think fingers crossed it's kind of slowing down now, and I think now you're kind of getting to the point where the dust is starting to settle a little bit, and you can kind of take a much clearer look at who are the programs that added the most and got better, who lost the most, and I think by my count, like more than 75% of the players in the portal, the scholarship FBS players in the portal, have made decisions now. So not a lot of guys still out there who are like kind of big name proven guys. And so, as those players enroll and get to campus and all that kind of stuff, things kind of finally quiet down and you got kind of a better sense of, who really thrived during this period. And I think if guys do pop up here in the weeks ahead, there will still be demand because there's still going to be schools that have positional needs and stuff like that. But right now it's kind of finally settling down.
So a couple of weeks ago, the AFCA got together for their convention, and the coaches ended up pushing forward the idea of wanting to move to a single portal window in early January, like a 10-day window. And it's just a recommendation, obviously. That doesn't mean it's going to happen. But obviously, Max, people are looking for answers, especially coaches, on how to kind of corral this a little bit. What do you make of that proposal or that idea? Does it really change things all that much in your mind? And as somebody who follows it as closely as you do you have any personal ideas that you've had over this time of how the portal could probably operate a little bit better, if at all?
Yeah, I think there's a couple problems. The first problem, obviously, is that, the NCAA's current record in courtrooms is it's not good, right? And it's like, you can just tell, like, as you see kind of more reform coming, it's like someone's going to sue and challenge this, and there's going to be an injunction, and there's going to be a rule change. Like, we just keep kind of seeing that over the last few years. So I think the idea of, like, I certainly understand from a head coach perspective, yeah, you would not want there to be a spring window. The NFL doesn't have 2 free agency periods. Like, you wish this could all be done at one time, and you feel like you have a really good grasp of who's going to be on your team next year and not lose guys all over again. I certainly understand like that frustration. But I think taking away the second window is something they could have done in this cycle and ultimately chose not to do. I think they know that would be, there probably would be problems and litigation if they tried to do that. I think it's just, we're at that point now where if you kind of try to take these things that you've given them away, you're going to have people that challenge that. And so I think that's a tough thing. And then the other, like the idea of just pushing the portal to January, like, believe me, it would make my life easier. But I think the problem is it's just not like a single issue here. Like this stuff is all interconnected and all tangled up together. And so, the fact that the national championship game is on January 20th, I think is a big problem for this stuff. I think the fact that, that the postseason is going to stretch as long as it does, and maybe longer if they expand it someday, I think that all factors into this. And so I understand we all want to see players playing bowl games and all that kind of stuff. But I still think if you're doing the portal in January, players are still going to be announcing in November and December that they're going to go in the portal, and they're still going to be opting out and things like that. So I think it's all part of the bigger problem of the calendar. And, can you start playing the season earlier, and can you start getting to the postseason earlier? And I think it's all connected to just say, let's move the portal. I don't think that really solves a lot of problems.
I was wondering today as I saw, maybe, Paul, you said there was a player yesterday from the offensive line at Notre Dame, 2 more today. I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on? And then I realized, like you said, those 2 teams played Monday night. So is Notre Dame that deep on the offensive line? I saw Pete Sampson write a couple of things about those guys entering the portal. These are some dudes that can play, and now all of a sudden available for others to pick up.
Yeah, I mean, I think the depth for 25 is it takes a hit, certainly. You can say, I mean, certainly these guys were starters for Notre Dame. And so, and that offensive line, wasn't perfect this year, but was good enough to get them all the way to the end. So, I think that you can say, all right, there's some younger guys that step up and players that return and stuff like that. And so you can get through these losses. But I think that's it cuts into the depth, and now you're hoping for some young guys to really step up. And they had that this year at left tackle and stuff like that. But yeah, I think it's a tough hit, and one where Notre Dame is, I think they've got a good track record, obviously, when it comes to high school talent on the offensive line and recruiting and developing stuff like that. So they'll probably be okay. But those are players that probably, based on where they're coming from, probably are going to make a good payday by choosing to grad transfer somewhere else. And that's another challenge here. At this time of year, you play the championship game this late. There's just not some. There aren't 3 great offensive linemen in the portal for Notre Dame to go get that are just equivalent players. And so you either have a need in the spring or you got to hope some more grad transfers pop up here.
I know you're so busy with reporting and following the portal and all these various things, but just Max Olson, the college football reporter, Max Olson, the college football fan, what did you think of the first ever 12-team playoff?
Terrific. I mean, I really, I think overall, like you can't talk about it without talking about just like the overall 24 season. And I think it was, as exciting as I think we hoped. I know that there was a lot of fear mongering going in about just how this 12-team playoff is going to ruin the regular season and the stakes and all that stuff. To me, it didn't feel that way. Like, and I don't think that Ohio State, as an 8 seed winning the national championship, means that this thing was all messed up. Like, I think you have to have the utmost respect for the caliber of opponents that Ohio State had to beat in the playoffs, the number of top 5 teams they had to take down to go all the way. And so it's going to be a little bit different now. Like, you have to, we're going to have to get used to the fact that there are going to be teams that go 10-2 that are good enough to win it all and stuff like that. But like, I thought the playoff itself was a ton of fun. I got to go to Atlanta for Texas Arizona State, and certainly that was one of the games of the year. And I thought that the semifinals delivered in a big way, and I enjoyed the national championship. I thought Notre Dame made that competitive, obviously, in the second half. But like, how could you not be impressed by what Ryan Day and his team did and overcoming what they overcame in the postseason? So I don't know about you guys, but like, I was pretty pleased overall. I think it made the overall season a lot more exciting for a lot more fan bases.
Yeah, I think that none of the changes that need to be made compared to like the size of expanding it would be catastrophically major. Like, I think a minor tweak is the seating, but you have to get that worked out money-wise because, the teams that would get, kind of pushed out there would be the ones that, made some money from getting a bye that normally wouldn't because the big boys would keep them out. More home games is, I think that's going to come. And then what do you do with the bowl games? How do you I guess for lack of a better term, how do you mercy kill the stupid things that we have to do with these bowl games, Max? Because it's just kind of antiquated, especially to what it is now.
I definitely know what you mean. And I think, I didn't get to cover a first-round home game this year, but they look like terrific experiences. I don't know if that's what every single fan is looking for. I know some people like to make the trips and stuff, but man, I think that a second round of home games would be a lot of fun. And I think that especially when you think about like what that would mean for a Boise State to get to host one of those, and for Arizona State and these teams that had the first round buys this year. So yeah, I think and certainly makes a difference if you're Oregon and you're having to play such a tough matchup in your first playoff game, something like that. So yeah, I think that would be pretty cool to see how that works out and the politics of it and satisfying all of the parties involved there. Don't have the magic bullet for that. But I'm with you. I think that, and it certainly seemed like it was a little bit challenging to explain to the public each week during the rankings reveals. Okay, here's the rankings, but this is what the bracket actually would look like. And I could see, and then obviously all of the teams that had buys lost their games, right? So like I can understand the argument for going to, just seeding at 1 to 12. But you're right. I just don't think, and you talk to other commissioners, they kind of anticipated like no one's just going to kind of give that up for free without anything in return. And so to not be able to get that done, it's hard to get that done when and make that unanimous when there's not mutual benefit for everybody. But I agree, it's little tweaks. I don't think you look at this and say that 12 was a disaster or that this playoff needs to be much larger.
Max, question about the portal, and I know you got to go. Thank you for your time as always. Is that
of course?
So Micah Hudson, the 5-star receiver, goes to Tech. Not much out of him this year. Next thing you know, he's in the portal, and then apparently A&M. And then yesterday there were some, and a great friend of mine who's a Tech alum said that Mike is back in Lubbock, and I get a note from somebody within the program that he might have been back in there to pick up his stuff he left to take it back to College Station. What are you hearing about him?
I think that one's pretty up in the air right now. I wouldn't be surprised if Micah Hudson takes a little break here and gets his head together and kind of figures out what he wants to do. I don't think it's impossible that he could return to Texas Tech. Now I think I don't think that's like easy because like obviously that's a player that left your program and is everybody in the locker room going to be cool with that? And like, they've got Caleb Douglas back. They added Reggie Virgil. Like it's not like Micah Hudson comes back and is instantly a starter for them next year. Like I think he'd have to re-earn some trust if he were to go back. But I don't think it's impossible that he could go back there. I know Joey McGuire and his staff did not want to lose him. And I don't think that it was like a matter of money. The reason that he went to Texas A&M, I think he was just in a place in his head where he kind of felt like he needed a change after a freshman season that didn't go the way he hoped. And then after a brief stint at A&M, it seems like he's kind of reconsidering here. But yeah, he's not. It's definitely an unusual situation. I mean, we see it sometimes, but it's an unusual situation, and one where we'll see if he just needs a little leave of absence and he's back with the Aggies, or if he's truly, going back to Tech or going back in the portal.
Thank you, man. Appreciate your time. Get a little break. You deserve it, although you never do, because the portal is never over. It's never ending. It's never closed in a lot of different ways. Max Olson with us from ESPN.